Hey there, viewers. Thank you for tuning in to Supermariodiagnostics once again. Today we are working on a 2015 328i GT, and the concern is a parasitic draw. But first, I'd like to thank our first ever official Super Mario Diagnostics channel sponsor, Top Down. Top Down is making a great name for themselves by not only providing our industry with innovative tooling, but also showing their generous support for technical training both at a local level as well as a national level. In my experience, their customer service is second to none. They are the tools I pick up when working on complex diags and programming, and I recommend them highly. All my doors are open, all my latches are closed, my trunk is open. That is where the battery lives. Let's go ahead and take a look at what kind of draw we have. I've got my maintainer on it at all times. The car's been sitting for a while. I always do the same procedure if you guys haven't noticed, and that is to hook up my power probe hook, and we got a 1 amp draw steady, and it's been steady the whole day. I've been leaving it there, and my first step is always the same. As I said, it is to do a thermal image scan across the whole vehicle. So let's go ahead and do just that. I already have it set up. I've got this thing going on over here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the vehicle. We already got some fuse boxes over here, so we might as well take a look at those first. All right, so we could see our power probe is on here, and our battery is kind of hot. That is something that I may want to look into later, but for now, I don't think that's causing our issue. We have a 1 amp draw regardless. We got some boxes here, some modules, and they are doing good. There's no heat whatsoever. Let's go ahead outside the vehicle, take a look at our lights. Our lights are good. Let's take a look at just about everything. We know what that is, right? We explained it last time. That is emissivity. And you can see my hand. I'm waving my hand in front of the emblem, and you can see it moving around. You don't want to confuse that for something else that's not actually there. In the last video I did, we had the defroster. So, looking good. That defroster is not on. Let's go ahead and take a look in the vehicle. And we've got some red there. Is it emissivity? Let's take a look. Let's go inside carefully. And that's my cluster. I'm waving. You guys can see that I'm waving at it. If you move it around, usually with emissivity, it will shift as you move around. But this is not moving around. That's pretty steady. Our ignition switch is lit. That shouldn't be on. It's been hours. Let's go ahead and take a look at the center. So we already have a sense of direction here. Let's take a look at the overhead. That is 85 degrees in there, so there may be something on in there. Don't know yet. Sure looks that way. And well, I doubt you could hear that, but we got some serious thunderstorms coming. And this one doesn't have the regular junction box electronics behind there. It has the front end module, front electronics module, so completely different setup compared to our last video. Look at our shifter, our controller, all good there. That is reflection as well. That is emissivity. So first thing I want to do is swap the cluster. Just kidding. We got to make sure that there's actually something going on with this cluster. These are super easy to remove. They're 2 bolts up top, and I'm going to remove this cluster and see if there's more heat signatures coming out of the back. It'll be a whole lot easier to see than the front. All right, so we have the cluster out. Let's go ahead and take a look at it with the thermal imager, and it is lighting off all over the place. I think we found a draw. It's definitely not the only draw. I'm going to disconnect it me see if I could easily disconnect this thing. Looks easy enough. Let's go ahead and let me just get this thermal imager out of here. I'm gonna disconnect this and see if our draw goes away completely. And our light is still on. And it is dropping. Nice. Thermal imager for the win, even a 1 amp draw. Wow, that's crazy low. And the light turned off on the ignition switch. That's awesome. So those of you who are still on the fence about thermal imagers, guys, this is my go-to procedure, and I'm sharing it with you guys because of the success rate that I'm having with it. I'm freaking getting through these parasitic draws. Like, don't get me wrong, it has its ways, it has its pitfalls, though, like just like with any system, any strategy. But we found the draw, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily know for a fact that the cluster itself is the problem. We know that it's the source of the draw, but we don't know that the cluster itself is the reason for all the draw. There could be something turning it on. There could be something still communicating, a babbling node. And logically, you would think, well, if there was, why did the draw go away completely? Which you'd be right. That's my thought process. I'm thinking out loud right now. My thought process is, well, if there was a babbling node and it wasn't the cluster, then why is the draw completely gone? And if I'm not mistaken, these are, I just had a class with Justin Morgan from LMV Bavarian Industries, and and I've ran into it myself as well. They have a wake-up line on there. So you can put power to them and ground, and without the wake-up line, it's not going to fly. It needs to have the wake-up command for full power, at least, though. This isn't full power. This is just 1 amp. So take that with a grain of salt. There is a wake-up line here. We're going to look up some diagrams, but before that, I'm going to connect it. Make sure that I want to see what happens when I connect it. Does it go straight to the 1 amp? Does it take a while? Let's go ahead and reconnect it. And hey, look, immediately my ignition switch turned on. And we went straight to our 1 amp draw. So let's get to know the system, check out the diagrams, scope some things. Let's see if this has like a terminal 15 wake up, or if it's a wake up line, a communication signal. And make sure those are both off. If it has both, I don't know if it does. One or the other. If it has terminal 15, there should be no terminal 15 on right now. If there is, then we need to find out why. If the wake up signal is silent and the cluster still comes on, then there must be an internally shorted issue inside the cluster. It could be a shorted capacitor for all we know. All right, so here's our cluster diagram, and it looks like we have a hot width terminal 30B relay energized. That's terminal 30, so it's not terminal 15. And B, if I'm not mistaken, it's a relay that should be shutting off after a certain amount of time. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I forgot what the predetermined time is, but it's not a terminal 15. So technically, these with the key on, it would be hot at all times, and this will turn off eventually to reduce a possibility of a draw, which is ironic, but that draw must be coming from this 50 amp fuse. If we disconnect it, pretty sure we'll get rid of our draw, but really there's no point in disconnecting it. What I want to take a look at is make sure that there's no power on red and brown. And then I'm going to have to find out somehow if there's a wake up line from the front electronics module to the instrument cluster, because these are terminal 30s. These are not terminal 15s. 15s is the accessory. So I would have to think that there's some kind of a wake up line here somewhere. Maybe we could look at the OE diagram and get some insight on that. But which one is which one is our diagram is the problem at this point. Let's see. So we have our front electronics module. Oh, there it is. 15 wake up is our pin 11 to the cluster. See that? 15 WUP, that is 15 wake up. So we're going to make sure that pin 2 and pin 11 are nice and quiet right now. So our pin 1 is 30B. There should be nothing right now. I am not spreading pins, guys. I am simply probing, and we've got nothing. I'm going to check pin 2, and I'm using my ground that's being provided to the cluster as my ground for the scope. And there we have on pin 2, hot at all times, good 12 volts. That was me jiggling the wire, right? That's me disconnecting. And pin 11 is our wake up line. And we are silent. This condemns the cluster, fellas. That cluster is internally shorted to hot at all times somehow. Something's drawing 1 amp in there, and theoretically we could provide it. We could put it on the bench, give it 1 amp. Give it a power on pin 2 and ground, and use the thermal imager there to see where is the most draw coming from. It could be that the whole thing lights up. I saw heat signatures all over all over the place. So could be that it's just turning on somehow. But it may not just be one component. That would be awesome. But that's typically not our first go-to option for the customer. We present them the option to possibly open it and maybe see if we could find something. If not, they'll have to go for a new one, and they understand the risks involved. I don't know where we're going to go with in this particular case with this customer, but I can present them the option. Hey, let's open it up and give it power and see if we could find the short, if there's a short, or if there's some kind of logic issue going on where it's just on. But I'm pretty sure a draw from a cluster is much more than 1 amp if it was on. And obviously the screen's not on, nothing's on really. It's just something inside there that's on. It could be shorted. If it was a short, that'd be awesome, but even then, it's not like I don't know that I would have the parts that I need on hand for this particular component. So yeah, that's my thought process on that. Let's see where the customer decides to go with this. If they decide to fix it, great. We're gonna go ahead and do so. And yeah, I really just wanted to make this video to show, I wanted to make more parasitic draw videos because they seem to be a real pain sometimes. Yeah, there is energy diagnosis with BMW, but not everyone has ISTA, and there should be different options for it. It's not like ISTA is expensive. I'll tell you right now, if you're on the fence whether to buy ISTA or not, and you're a technician that works on BMW all the time, it's $30 a day, and you need ICOM. It's like what, $700-800 plus tax. It's not as bad as many of the other manufacturers out there. So just so you know, if you have any questions about that, you can leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get you in touch with the factory tools for BMW. But I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for not using energy diagnosis to come to this conclusion, but there's multiple ways to skin a cat. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And energy diagnosis, yeah, it'll increase your chances of finding a draw, but it doesn't pinpoint it for you necessarily. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, let's see if we can get an approval and take it from there. Let's give this a shot, shall we? We got the top-down Phoenix Max over here, and we're going to attempt to code the new instrument cluster. And this is what it looks like when you have a brand new instrument cluster. You see that red dot next to the mileage. That is incorrect. We should be able to just code this and get it done. Now, we could do a backup and recover from the old instrument cluster, but I want to see what it'll do. This is something that we can always, like, if it came down to it, but for now we're just gonna do regular coding, not the backup and restore type. If we need to, we will. Not too worried about it though. And it is an F chassis, so kind of gives a little bit of a, trust issues there, but I have done it before in F chassis and I've not had an issue, so we'll see. See if we can find our instrument cluster right here. Encoding takes a long time. It's sending me to select data integrity level. So I would like to pick the highest number possible. And that would be this one right here. And let's see if with all that it changes right before our eyes. It's doing a reset right now. And there it is. Our mileage is back to normal in mileage, not in kilometers. There are several modules that have the mileage recorded, and they will throw codes. You will see that red dot if the mileage is not matching everything else in this vehicle. So just like that, we are fixed. Let's go and check our draw and make sure that we are completely done here before releasing it to the vehicle, to the customer. And very nice to see that the top-down Max pulled this one through. There is always another option of backup and restore if it came down to it, but this is a nice little feature right there, especially on an F chassis where typically with the factory tool ISTA, you would have to encode the entire vehicle. You cannot do one at a time. If I'm not mistaken, I think that still holds true. At least it was true back when I last attempted it. So we got the old one out. I tried opening it, got the approval to open it just to see if I could find anything. And guys, I'm not a pro. I haven't been doing electronics for decades or anything, so I'm still learning. But I thought I'd give it a shot anyway. There's no core charge on the new one. They approved the new one. I may end up, if the customer doesn't want it, I may end up holding on to it and seeing if I could learn from it. But for now, we went ahead and replaced the cluster with a brand new one from the dealer. And I got my Pico M clamp hooked up. And the car's been asleep for a while now. There's our new cluster. And let's go ahead and see if we could confirm a good amperage there. And it is noisy. I put filtering and we can see our true RMS is at about 13.45 milliamps, and that is with the Pico M clamp right there with the battery. And yeah, this one's fixed. I hope this video helps to show the usefulness of a thermal imager for parasitic draw. Isn't it so much better than to just like go fuse by fuse? I mean, that's there if you have it, but every technique is one more tool under your belt, one more tool in your arsenal or in your toolbox, or however you like to call it. Take advantage of it. If you have a thermal camera, thermal imager, use it. It made this a breeze. And hope this video also shows the importance of having OE diagrams, or at the very least having the option to see and interpret OE diagrams, because in the aftermarket one we didn't see the wake-up line named the wake-up line or anything like that. We just saw wires going to the front electronics module. So until we had the OE diagrams, we couldn't say for sure which one was the wake-up line, what was terminal 15, 30, 30B, all that good stuff. So I hope that helps with that, just to remember that one detail. Oh, look, let's take a look at the OE diagrams. You never know. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all for taking the time. If you like what you see, if you think I earned your subscription, consider subscribing. Leave a comment if you have any questions. And catch you all next time. Thanks again.